In this video, we're going to show you how to install a 14-inch ceiling vent in your RV trailer motorhome. So we're going to be going with the name brand one. This is both the ceiling vent and fan combo. So I went with the Max Air just because a lot of the reviews I was seeing on Amazon of the cheap overseas or no name ones, a lot of people were saying they went through the whole process of installing it, and then several months or weeks or days later the motor on the fan either quit on them or the plastic cracked and they ended up getting a leak and all that kind of stuff. So and it was honestly only an extra $30 to get an actual legit one. So this is it here. I just want to show you it quickly, its operation. I just hooked it up to 12 volts here. We're renovating this RV, but here's how it works. The other thing too is the Max Air one has two arms to lift the actual vent, so it's a lot more sturdy. Plus it's kind of cool, it has the option to be able to put an actual enclosure over this, so it has the provisioning for that, so that later on we can actually put the enclosure over top of it. We can operate this when it's raining outside because it'll have a shroud over it. So I thought that was kind of cool also. But here it is. It's pretty straightforward. On the back you got a manual knob to turn it, and we'll show you guys the function once it's installed. But you pull the knob up and then you click the knob down to kind of lock it in place. And then the fan has 4 settings, so you can turn the fan on, of course. This thing is super quiet, you guys. My AC is much louder than this fan. So fan on, fan off, and then you got your 4 speeds. You just push this. So anyways, this is it here. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to show you guys where we're putting it. We're replacing it where the tiny little, originally this was a little fan here. It was only about like a 4-inch fan. So, and this one I'm missing a bunch of the mechanisms. If you guys are interested in RV content besides just this fan, we've been completely renovating this RV and making it better than ever. I put in this shower tower, so all sorts of stuff. Hit the subscribe button if you guys are interested in that stuff. Let's get straight to it. We're gonna get on the roof. We're gonna scrape off the sealant on there, take out the screws, and then we'll get this out. You'll notice here that I have my wires for my fan, for my switch right here. You might want to disconnect them if you are replacing an existing fan. Disconnect them now, that way when we go to the roof we don't have to run back down here again. So if you have yours in place here, take all the trim off, get it to where you can see it here. That way we're only left with the stuff on top of the roof and we can work from the roof down, and then we'll come back in here later. Okay, so here we are up on the roof. Probably the most annoying part of this whole process is getting the old lap sealant off. But if you guys have a multi-tool, I know not everybody does, so I'm using the multi-tool to make things faster. You can use a scraper like this, so whatever your preference level is, but scrape it so that you can get to where the screw is, or should be, I should say. Can't always rely on it being built properly, so there's supposed to be a screw there. Obviously there's not, they skipped it. So take your scraper and we're gonna work this to where there should be a screw, and if there's not, and essentially what you're gonna do is just grab your Phillips once you see the head of the screw and undo it. So we'll do the same thing here. And you can see it's not much effort to just use the putty knife, it's just our multi-tool is a little bit faster. So there you go. You can see there's a screw there. So we'll get it, make sure you get it fully engaged, and take the Phillips screw up. So I'm gonna work that all the way around like you see there, and we'll get it off. All right, so we removed all the screws. We made quick work out of our lap sealant with the multi-tool, but again, you can use this. And next what we're gonna need to do is separate the roof vent from the roof, because there's still gonna be, could either be lap sealant or sometimes butyl tape underneath there. So we're gonna need to get underneath it and pry this off the roof. So we're gonna go ahead and work this around. So however you want to, just be kind of careful with your roof, of course. And we're just gonna pry this off. So this one's metal. I don't know if you'll be replacing a plastic one. Hopefully it doesn't turn into a nightmare for you where it's breaking and whatnot, but I'm not sure what sealant this had on it, but it is definitely on here, which I guess isn't a bad thing. So if you need to put wood back here to kind of disperse the load, definitely do that. Mine seems to be coming out without a whole lot of force, which is good. If you guys are curious how old this thing is, this unit is a 2005, and we're filming this in 2024, so this looks like the original roof vent. But yeah, I'm just gonna go around, work it like you can see here. All the screws are removed. You just gotta break the bond between here. So let me continue to do that and we'll pop this off. Okay, so it looks like with having two corners of it off, I can probably just lift the rest by hand here. There we have it. There we go. Alright, she is free. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just cleaning off the rest of our lap sealant. So I'm just going to scrape it all off clean and we'll get to the fun stuff. Alright guys, so our surfaces are all clean. This isn't anything here, this is just from previous owner taping something up. But anyways, I would strongly recommend getting a multi-tool if you don't already have one. That made really quick work out of that. Like, I did a time lapse there, but honestly that took me all of 3 to 5 minutes to get this perfectly level now. So we can discard this one, chuck it off your roof, give yourself a little bit of satisfaction for a hard job done. And now we can go ahead and get the new one. We'll get the lap sealant. We're gonna run a nice thick bead of lap sealant around here, get this situated, and then we can start putting the new screws in. All right, so here's the new unit. So obviously you're gonna wanna test fit it, make sure everything is good. Also double check your wiring. Make sure your wire actually makes it down through. Don't do something like this where your wire ends up being up top after you've sealed it and screwed everything down. So make sure you feed the wire down into your unit. And then what I'm gonna do, obviously you can just dry test fit it. Just test fit it dry, like so. And then this is what I'm talking about. You're gonna be able to move this around quite a bit. So we're gonna wanna make sure it's centered in there. But in order to do that, we're gonna have to go back underneath. You could try to follow the old footprint of your old unit, but I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna do it in a second. Also, make sure you have the orientation in the right way. So it's gonna wanna open from the rear. So vehicles traveling down the road this way, the rear is gonna be what pops up right here. All right, so you're gonna wanna get yourself lap sealant. Doesn't have to be necessarily brand specific, but I'll link a good one down below for you guys. You're gonna need a caulking gun and make sure you have some paper towels on deck too. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna lay our lap sealant all around the perimeter, put a nice generous bead around it, and then we're gonna drop this back into place. And then before we screw it down, we're gonna go inside and make sure we're all centered up before we start drilling our screws and driving our screws home. So I'm gonna walk through that step with you guys, but I'm just kind of laying the course of action here. Other thing I like to do too is the old screw holes. Make sure you put lap sealant over top of those, because you just never know where your new screws are going to line up. Especially if you're changing units, chances are you're going to have a different bolt pattern. Okay, so we got a nice decent bead through here. Make sure there's no gaps. We are going to be sealing it pretty much every which way you possibly can. The last thing we want is some leaks. If you see some gaps, go around and just add a little bit here and there. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. So put this off to the side with a paper towel, because chances are it's going to end up running out, even if you release the pressure on the end. Okay, so now we're going to carefully lower our new unit in. Again, make sure that the opening is towards the rear. Alright, so we're going to let that sit down. Now we're going to go inside and we're going to make sure that our gap is consistent all the way around the edges. Alright, so here we are inside, and this is what I was mentioning to you guys. So you can see here, just dropping it from up top, you're kind of working blind. So we need to start positioning this squared up in here. So I'll leave it up to your guys' discretion to get that where it needs to be, but just try to center it in your opening there. Other thing you can do too is get your trim piece, get yourself a little test fit going, because what you see here is what you're going to see later. Okay, and once you're happy with how this all looks, we'll go up top and we can go ahead and start putting our screws in. Okay, so we went ahead and installed one of our screws, and if you want to double check, once you kind of get one screw and you want to run back down, double check it. Now would definitely be the time to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting the screws in around the perimeter. All right, so you might have noticed I ran them down with the impact driver, but I didn't, just drive them home. I just got them close, and then I manually, with a screwdriver, ran them down, just snugged them down, because I didn't want to strip them out. I didn't want to go crazy with it. This thing can easily overpower just screwing into your roof. So everything's on, everything's tight. Now we're gonna go ahead and put a healthy amount of lap sealant over top of our screws and around the perimeter. Same way you saw when we took it off, and same as your unit. You can see just how generous they are from the factory. So we're gonna go ahead and do some laps with the lap sealant. All right guys, so there we go. Every single screw has lap sealant on top, and this is self-leveling, so it will end up leveling out as it dries. And we put a nice helping of it around. So I did this with just one tube of lap sealant. It seems to be enough. You could order two, might not be a bad idea to have two on deck. And then worst comes to worst, you can go ahead and redo some of your old lap sealant like this. You can see it's starting to almost get to the point where it's starting to crack, so you can always go ahead and do over some of your other seals as well. So we're all done up here. We can go ahead, take off our protective film. Let's go inside and we can get our trim piece in order. Okay, so we're back inside, and they give you a healthy amount of wire, but we don't need this much, so I'm going to trim it back just with some side cutters. You can see here, black is positive, white is neutral, so we'll follow that on here. It also comes with supplied connectors, but I'm going to use these wire connectors. Just a little bit more simple in my opinion. All right, so check it out you guys. I don't know how it's coming across camera, but this thing is on full speed right now, or maybe one more, let's see. Okay, now it's full speed. That's 4, it was on 3. Like, this thing is pretty dang quiet, so I'm not sure how the mic's picking it up, but I'm telling you, it's very quiet for what it is. Only caveat I will tell you guys is I have a switch for my fan. And because it's a digital unit, when you cut the power, it doesn't remember the setting. So if I turn off the fan here, and here goes the fan turning off. If I turn the fan back on here, it doesn't resume. So I still have to reach back up here and turn it back on, which it's kind of a manual fan anyways, because you still have to open and close it manually. So either way, you're gonna be reaching up, but I wish that it would retain its setting so that the switch would function, but if you're just hardwiring it in, this wouldn't even be a factor for you guys. All right, so next up, this trim piece. I will tell you guys that it does require trimming because they don't know what unit you're putting this in, and they want to give you sufficient depth so that you don't end up having too short of a trim piece. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide this up in here, and we're gonna try to fully seat it, and the amount that it does not seat, we're gonna measure that, and then we're gonna cut it off of the top of the trim, and then we'll try it again. Okay, so what I did was just scribe a mark on each side. I don't know if you guys can see that, my mark right there. And now I can take it down, and we can use these marks to measure how much has to be taken off of each respective side. So you can see there, that'll pretty much get it close. So I'm gonna take off about another 1/2 inch on top of that because we don't need it to go all the way. So the distance from here to the actual face We're gonna measure that distance, and then we're gonna cut that amount off of the top here. Okay, so in my case, it's about 1.75 inches on the highest side. So I'm going to take off 2 inches from the top all the way around. Okay, so I've gone ahead and scribed 2 inches off the top of our trim. And to cut it, I'll be using this multi-tool again with the wood and plastic blade. So I just got one of these multi-tools a few weeks ago, and I have been using it like crazy. All right, so there it is. Our 2 inch piece is cut off. So now if we go back over to here, let me see if I can get this in here, because I can't do it with one hand, but let me check it. All right, check it out, you guys. So we got beautiful fitment all the way around. So now we can go ahead and put in our screws. So you can spend a little bit of time cleaning up the edge if you'd really like, but you're not gonna see it. It's buried way up in the top. So let's go ahead and throw in the 4 provided screws. But if you're like me and you guys want to clean up the edge, you can use the multi-tool again. And I've got 60 or 80 grit on here. And it's gonna make quick work of cleaning up these edges. All right, so our edges are all cleaned off now, and let's go ahead and reinstall this. All right, guys, so the 4 Phillips screws that hold the trim in are in place, and our fan is fully functional. So pretty happy with the install. One interesting thing that I found as I close, you won't be able to see the actual lid, but I'm closing the lid here, is it will actually allow you to keep the fan on with the lid fully closed. So, and it blows air back, because obviously it can't travel upwards, but that's the way it works. So you fully tighten it by tightening it clockwise, and then you push it in to lock it, which is pretty cool. And then yeah, turn the knob to raise it, fan off, fan on, and then you have to push it 4 times to get to the 4th and fastest speed. And that's it, you guys. So if you guys found this video helpful or informative, make sure you give it a thumbs up for me. Check out the other videos on the channel. I am completely renovating this RV, so I am covering all kinds of aspects that I haven't really seen on YouTube before, including, like I said, some of this shower stuff, some upgraded stuff, and just going through everything. So I'll link everything that we used down in the description below. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.